All right, welcome to this new podcast. So, what I'm going to be going over here is why you still sound like a beginner even after years of jazz piano practice. Now, I've been there and I know exactly what it feels like. You've been practicing jazz for years. You know the scales, you know the chords, you know the tunes, but you still don't sound like the real thing. That is extremely frustrating, right? I know, I've been there. Welcome to the Jazz Piano School Podcast, episode number 363. Welcome to the Jazz Piano School Podcast. My name is Brendan Lowe, and if you've ever felt stuck trying to learn jazz piano from a million different sources, this show is definitely for you. Each week, I break things down step by step to help you play with more freedom, more confidence, and a whole lot more swing. Everything I share here ties back to the system that I created and that we use inside the Jazz Piano School membership. So if you're ready for more structure and progress, I'll tell you how to check that out at the end of this episode. And hey, if you're enjoying this kind of real-world guidance, make sure to hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. All right, welcome to the Jazz Piano School. We are here. I am pumped. I got a lot of amazing things for you, and I'm going to be doing things differently, and you're going to hear some different things. I went on kind of a tangent in the last episode, but you're going to hear some different things, and I don't want to share them with you. I just want you to experience them, okay? So I'm going to do a little teasing. I'm going to tease that. Definitely check out the upcoming podcast because things are going to be running a little bit differently. We don't always need to be at the piano. Right? A lot of what I do is help my mastermind and my accelerator students with their mental mindsets. But anyway, I'm just going to lay that out there. But I got an awesome topic today. All right. And again, it kind of just relates to what I was just talking about. A lot of the issues that students experience really are things that we kind of get confused about. A student might think, oh, I need more scales. I need more theory, right? Or I need to learn this technical facility, right? But most of the time, it's not about that. It's not about learning more scales. It's not about learning that cool theory trick, right? It's about learning how to take what you have and make actual music from it. And I can remember back in my own journey in college, I was practicing a lot. I was showing up, I was practicing, but my playing still didn't sound like jazz. It didn't sound like the way I want it to sound, like on the albums. Does that sound familiar to you, right? I think this really resonates and relates to a lot of students' stories. Like we're learning so much theoretical concepts. We're practicing scales. We're practicing modes. We're playing transcriptions, right? But nothing we're doing really makes the music come alive. It doesn't make what we're playing feel like jazz. And in today's episodes, I'm going to break down the three biggest reasons that you might still sound like a beginner. Even though you're doing all this practicing, you're putting in all this work, which is really, really hard on our emotional capacity, right? I've been there. I remember that. And I was putting in so much and I wasn't getting out what I wanted out of all the work. But I'm going to talk to you about those three biggest reasons. And I'm also going to help you shift your focus so that your playing can start to sound more like the records you love. Now, again, quick note, this is going to be more of a mental mindset educational podcast. And I'm going to be switching up things, and this is going to be a little bit intro into the changes that I'm going to be talking about and implementing into the podcast. Now, I'm still figuring things out, right? I'm human. I make mistakes. I listen to the comments. I listen to the reviews because I'm the creator. I know what I like on podcasts, and I resonate with all of you too. So I'm actually going to be giving you different types of podcasts because I think one thing can get boring. I get bored extremely easily. Just how-to podcasts are not the best way to help you. And I've realized that, and I understand. And when I go to watch how-to videos, I'm going to be completely transparent with y'all. I don't usually watch them all. Who has time to sit down and watch a full how-to video, right? Not many of us in this day and age. And I think there's a lot of very, very effective ways and things that you need to know that are away from the piano. So helping shape your mind, helping to educate your mind on different types of points, nuggets, right? Informational nuggets that you can write down or take notes or just absorb as you're listening to the podcast, whether it's through audio or on YouTube. I think that's going to be extremely helpful for you, right? As a student, to take that in. It doesn't have to do with me talking about chords or notes or scales like this podcast is about. So I'm taking a big sidestep right now. And this has been a little bit of a challenge for me to overcome because, I can get really deep in the rabbit hole of the science of jazz. And I think I can be a little bit too scientifical sometimes. Scientifical, that's not a word. I think I can be a little bit too technical, a little bit too sciencey. I don't know why I keep saying the word sciencey, but it's something along those lines. I get too deep into the weeds. And a lot of that comes from my own personal trauma, might be a little bit too serious of a word to use, but my poor experience with my education in jazz, like I wanted to know the details so badly and I didn't get a lot of that. And so what I go to in the podcast is lots and lots and lots of how-to stuff, right? And if you've been a longtime podcast listener, you may have figured that out. A lot of my podcasts are very, very how-to. Some of them can get very long, very tedious. And, again, in this day and age, sometimes we just need these small mental nuggets to reframe how we're thinking about things, right? And that's exactly what this podcast is going to be. And I'm going to have other more different types of podcasts, play-along podcasts, practice podcasts, non-how-to podcasts. Obviously, I'll keep the deep dives going, but I'm going to deep dive into different topics like, playing styles, recordings, things like that. So I'm really going to start to actually craft a podcast that is much more expansive, I think, in nature, and I'm very excited. And these intros are going to get much smaller, just so you know. In the future, I know this one isn't, but they'll be much tighter on the front end to get into the information quicker for you to learn. I'm going to have much smaller plugs in the beginning for my programs, things like that. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. So moving forward, again, like I said in my last podcast, we are re-changing the structure inside of Jazz Piano School a lot. And we're also changing the podcast and the YouTube channel. There's a lot of change happening. And I promise you it's going to be for the best. Okay? So at the end, don't forget to stick around to hear. Again, a lot of times at the end, I'll be sharing a free giveaway, a free tool, a link that you can use to get more help from us if that's what you're looking for, right? So you can always stick around to the end to hear that. But with that being said, I will have my flowchart coming out very, very soon in the next episode. And that will be a really amazing, amazing resource that I'm definitely going to continuously give out for a long time because I truly believe it will help a lot of people. That will be completely free. And I'll tell you where you can get that in the next episode. But until then, enjoy this episode. If you have any questions at any point in time, feel free to reach out. And hope you learn a lot from this. Again, it is going to be a lecture-based episode where I'm talking and helping you reframe a lot of what happens with our sound and why we still tend to sound like a beginner, even though we are putting in so much work. So let's dive in. Here we go. You're putting in all the work, but something is still missing. Well, lucky for you, today I'm going to explain why that happens and how to finally break through it. Now, let me be very clear. This isn't about working harder or practicing more. It's about focusing on what actually matters for growth. So here's the truth. It's not your fault. Most jazz education skips over the very things that actually make jazz sound like jazz. Now, instead, you get overloaded with theory, scales, modes, and exercises that don't always connect to how real jazz is played. Does that sound familiar? Now, I talk to students all the time who say, Brendan, I've learned all my major and minor scales. I've studied chord symbols. I've even learned a bunch of tunes, but when I go to improvise, I freeze up. I don't sound like the records that I love. And I always say, you know what? That's not your fault. You've just been given the wrong starting point.
Because jazz isn't a checklist of music theory topics. It's a language. And like any other language, it needs context, repetition, and feel to actually sound authentic. So you know what? Let's dig into what's really missing. Because there are three massive gaps most self-taught or stuck players experience. Number one, there's no guided framework. You're collecting tips like use approach notes or voice with ninths and 13ths, but you don't know how they connect. There's no structure, just a flood of information with no direction. Think of it like trying to learn a language by memorizing random vocabulary words without learning grammar or sentence structure. You're putting in all this effort, but it never really gels into something fluid. Reason number two, there's no feedback or reflection. You're really practicing in a vacuum, especially in this day and age. You might be spending hours each week at the keyboard without a mentor, without structure, or even a way to objectively assess your own sound. You're reinforcing the same exact habits, good or bad. Now, many of my students didn't realize that they were rushing their eighth notes or that their voicings lacked smooth voice leading until someone pointed it out. And once they saw it, the growth, their progress at jazz piano, it accelerated drastically. Reason number three, there's no feel development. No feel development. This is a huge one. Feel isn't just about swinging harder, as a lot of my teachers told me to do, and I never knew exactly what they were talking about. It's about learning the subtle micro timing, the phrasing, the articulation that breathes life into jazz. And this isn't developed by reading about it. It comes from deep listening, intentional imitation, and repetition. It's built when you internalize how Miles delays a note, or how Wynton Kelly comps with bounce and grace. Now, most people skip this. They want the big, flashy theory, right? The shiny pearl. But the real sauce is in the rhythm, the time, the feel, and the phrasing.
Quick break right now. If you're finding this helpful and want a clear, step-by-step path to build your jazz piano schools, I've got just the thing for you. Right now, you can join the Jazz Piano School membership for just $37 a month. Now, that's 50% off our regular public price of $67 a month. You'll get full access to all of our courses, live coaching, supportive community, and the full proficient jazz pianist system to guide your growth. Head on over to jazzpianoschool.com/discount37 or just click the link in the show notes to grab the discount while it's still active.
Let me give you a quick story. One of my students, their name is George, they've been learning jazz on their own for years. And he had taken a bunch of courses, he had subscribed to YouTube channels, and practiced every single day. Now, he could play the changes, but it just didn't feel alive, right? Can you relate to that? When we started working together in my mastermind, the first thing I told him was, we're not adding more. I don't want to add more. What we're going to do here is we're going to go deeper with what you already know. So we started with one phrase, just one simple phrase. We played it slow. We exaggerated the rhythm. We worked on articulation. We used it over multiple tunes. We played with the dynamics. We played with the delay and ghost notes. And week by week, he started to sound and feel like a professional jazz pianist. Now, that's the power of mastering the feel, not just the notes, because the feel will trump notes every single time. So here's the real shift you need to make. You need to stop thinking of jazz as a bunch of disconnected concepts and start thinking of it as a progression, a skill tree. You need a clear, structured path that takes you from where you are right now to where you want to go, with actual steps along the way. Now, inside of Jazz Piano School, I've built that path. I literally guide students through 3 major tracks: solo piano, playing in a band, and improvisation. Each path has multiple levels with specific goals and an assessment test, so you always know what to work on and when. But it's actually more than that. We help students build awareness. You don't just play a lick, you learn where it came from and why you need to use it. You learn how to phrase it, when to use it, and how to make it your own. That's how you stop sounding like a beginner, even if you've been at this for years and years and years. And it's not about perfection. It really isn't. It's about consistent, intentional growth. That's how real players develop their sound. You really don't have to keep guessing. You don't have to do this alone. Inside the Jazz Piano School membership, you'll get full access to our structured course paths, live monthly coaching, practice plans, and a real community of students who are walking the same path as you. You'll finally have the structure and guidance that connects the dots and turns your hard work into real results. So go to jazzpianoschool.com to check out all of what we have to offer to get started, or download our free Jazz Piano Roadmap to get clarity on your next step. You've got the desire, you've put in the hours, now it's time to actually start sounding the way that you've always imagined and dreamed of. Thanks for listening. Again, my name is Brendan Lowe, and I'll see you next time. If you're ready to finally get some structure in your jazz piano practicing and see real results, now's the time to do so. Right now, you can join Jazz Piano School for just $37 a month, which is 50% off our regular public pricing. This is a limited time offer and it won't stay up forever. So if you've been waiting for the right moment, this is it. Just go to jazzpianoschool.com/discount37 or click the link in the show notes to get started today.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope today's episode helped bring you some clarity or even inspiration for your playing. If you want a clear path to move forward based on your personal jazz goals, I put together a free resource called the Jazz Piano School Flowchart. It maps out the 3 most common goals jazz pianists pursue: how to play in a band, comping, solo piano, and improvisation. And it shows you exactly what to work on to get there. You can grab it now for free by going to jazzpianoschool.com/flowchart, or just click the link in the show notes. I'll catch you in the next episode, and as always, happy practicing.